Kenny Atkinson said that Derrick White is a top 5 player in the league, Lou. In the league. What do you make of that? Top 5. Yeah, I thought it was a typo myself.
One take that snuck up on me recently, bro, that I just kept thinking about. I'm like, did an NBA coach really say this? Like, is this a real sentence uttered by an NBA coach? Apparently, it was from an article, right, from a massive, that state that Boston resides in, from a publication over there in Boston land, right? And in it, basically, the quotes is Derrick White, he's a top 5 player in this league. And that's from a NBA head coach from the Cavs, Kenny Atkinson. I think this was pregame before they played the Celtics. So, you look at this score and, it might not be that surprising that the Celtics end up losing. When a coach doesn't even think that your player, Donovan Mitchell, is better than Derrick White. I mean, I'm assuming, of course, because D. Mitch had 30 points in his game. And I doubt if Kenny thinks that what D. Mitch did in his game is more impactful than what D. White did. So in the presser pregame, he was asked to clarify his statement there. And I'm glad the person asked this question because it actually got us to understand more where Kenny came from, when he really, said what he said.
Before the game, you brought up a point about Derrick that really sparked some people's interest. Is there any more you could say to quantify that, or give us more on who some of the other top players are?
It's just probably what probably people aren't measuring is his defensive impact. I know that's hard to measure, and it's hard for your kind of average person. So there's, and everybody, maybe mainstream looks out just the offensive, but he's an elite elite on both ends.
Hey, man, Kenny basically said, yo, bro, we got calculators that you wouldn't even understand, bro. No, seriously, though, this answer is pretty eye-opening. He's basically saying this guy's an elite two-way player that, most people watching the games don't even notice.
So that equals, to me, for coaches in this league, for players in the league, that's how we look at him as a great player in that bucket. So, again, analytically, I think it's probably proven in various places that he is that player. And that's how we treat him. He's really disrupts you defensively. He's an elite rim protector, and people don't really like a guy, probably the best guard rim protector in the league. So just take all those things and put it in there, and with the shooting, you got a great player.
So I came into this video, I want to hate. You know why? Because he's shooting 32% from 3. His true shooting percentage, I think, is at 52%. Below league average. And we're talking about this dude being a top 5 player. It pissed me off. I'm like, bro, Emmanuel Quickly is shooting better from this guy. And people say he has one of the worst contracts in the league. So I was already coming from a place where I wanted to hate. But then I'm like, yo, bro, let me actually hear them out, bro. And honestly, one reason I said this is because of what I heard other people say about this from the mainstream media.
The reason nobody says that, Kenny, because it's not true. You can make numbers mean what you want to. The Celtics are only going to go for is Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. Let's cut to all. You could do these numbers. They all look good.
And shout out to these dudes because they made me realize, yo, bro, I'm on the same side as you. Wait a minute. You're lazy with your takes. I got to start thinking before I end up becoming just as lazy as you. And then I think 2 days later or so, Jaylen Brown, right, gets ejected in the game where they lose to the Spurs. Stephen A. Smith comes on and makes a proclamation that I think is very just absurd. It's egregious.
This is not the crew team. Who the hell do you think you are? We got a nationally televised game going on with a top 2 candidate for league MVP honors. We want to see Jaylen Brown. We want to see him with Tatum.
But what he had to say about Jaylen Brown in the MVP discussion, I know, right? MVP discussion with Jaylen Brown made me reconsider the entire point that Kenny Atkinson was even making in the first place. So after the Spurs beat the Celtics, right? Now it's Shea versus Jaylen Brown. And Stephen A. Smith revisiting his take about Jaylen Brown being a top 2 MVP candidate. He goes even further.
I think he has a case. Do I think he's top 2? No, I don't think he's top 2. I think Shea Gilgeous-Alexander is still in the lead. I think Nikola Jokic, the man who leads the league in assists.
And seeing Stephen A's reactions, bro. Yeah, he's about to say some nut shit. We already know.
But I'll be damned. You got to make sure that somebody else definitively is more deserving, because I am going to do everything in my power to give Jaylen Brown every benefit of the doubt to capture league MVP honors. He is not going to be robbed of anything, if I have anything to say about it, other than his performance on the basketball court.
This dude, Stephen A, is so adamant that if Jaylen Brown were to outplay Shea in this one game, he's going to do everything he can to vote him MVP, regardless of how the rest of the season shapes out. Regardless of how the season shaped out before tonight's matchup. Which, by the way, the Thunder won. And in large part to the Shea's heroics, of course. As Shea breaks a 60-plus year record of Will Chamberlain's consecutive games of 20-plus points. Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, bro. Done deal. I hope Stephen A. Smith stops talking about this now on. But that's all to say, bro. Stephen A. Smith and his ilk, right? Going up for Jaylen Brown. It goes in line with this thinking that because Jaylen Brown averages the most points on the team, and because he's having a career year from the box score perspective, that he deserves all the admiration, all the respect. And that's why this conversation really interests me, because it contrasts actual NBA, current NBA head coaches that are basically in the line of, no, let's actually give Derrick White a lot of the respect that you give Jaylen Brown. Let's actually give him top 5 player nods.
Before the game, Kenny Atkinson said that Derrick White's a top 5 player in the league. He said advanced analytics show that. Why is there a gap between what the numbers say about his impact and then sort of how he's perceived? He's never been on an All-Star.
Shout out the reporter for asking the question the way he did. Because yes, Joe Mazzulla will acknowledge it is a loaded question. But boy, oh boy, was that question needed to be asked. Because that's the gap that we need to talk about. The gap between how coaches, front office people, and people that are into the numbers really deep view Derrick White versus how the wider NBA community, more so the casual audience, the mainstream media, the ESPN ilks, right, view Derrick White.
You guys don't have a ton of access to the advanced analytics, so I think that's a part in it. I think the second piece is that's just that type of play is just not commercialized, But at the end of the day, D. White's a connector, in the standpoint of I think one of the hardest things to do in the NBA is learn how to have complete confidence and also be a connector and make other people around you better. And I think he does both of that, So he's the kind of guy, we have a bunch of guys on our team like that, but, he can, not get the ball and then get one shot in third quarter and it goes in,
And this is where the more I listen to some of the coaches and even some of the content creators out there that have actually been spreading the gospel of Derrick White for a long time, the more I'm understanding, I see what they're trying to say here. I actually see what they're trying to say. Right, I pulled up the basic box score stats of Derrick White, and I'm like, yo, bro, this is unimpressive, bro. Quickly shooting better than this guy, right? And it's like, bro, there's not much here that I'm just moved from, right? For example, in the box score itself, right, you see that he's having a career year in terms of blocks per game, right? And he's also averaging above a steal a game. By itself, the numbers aren't that crazy, but he's leading all guards in stocks per game. Now, if I scroll down, if this shit works, there you go. You'll see here Derrick White's plus minus on offs per 100 possessions, all green. If we compare it to the Celtic starters, right? Derrick White is there, and then look at everybody else. Payne Pritchard, there's some red. Jaylen Brown, there's some red. Even the numbers that are green are lower. Sam Hauser, he's not a starter. Neemias Queta, who's actually been a starter, his numbers are also green. But Derrick White still hasn't beat, right? Derrick White has everybody beat. That is like a rotation player aside from Hugo Gonzalez. And that's another player that I think more people are going to start talking about in this same vein as a rookie. But that's another story for another day, right? And for that, I have to shout out Hoop Venue, who, I have my disagreements with, but he's a great content creator in this space. And he has been singing Derrick White's praises for years now. And again, shout out Tyler, because he recently made a video this month talking about Derrick White yet again, but it was in the context of how we judge NBA players in general.
What if I told you that the box score is one of the worst ways to evaluate a basketball player? Not because stats are useless, but because they only tell you how a play ends, not how it was created.
The way he started out the video, Tyler did a great job basically dispelling something that I think most people did not realize, that the box score only takes into account how the play ends. And a lot of what happens in the basketball game isn't even registered in the box score that you're usually accustomed to seeing. I was mind blown when he said, I was like, that is such a great point.
And if the goal of basketball is to create the best opportunity to win, then most of the impact on the court happens where the box score isn't even looking. I would hope that we can all agree that the goal of basketball is to win. How do you win? By scoring more points than the other team. It's really that simple.
What I love about this video is that it's not just trying to talk to the nerds that already know a lot of this stuff about, how advanced analytics, reads the game. It's also trying to talk to the casual audience. It's bridging the gap. Basically saying, look, I agree with you. Points matter in the game, right? That's the goal, to try to score more points than the other team. So as an example, I saw this Reddit post from 25 days ago, okay? So the numbers are probably not the same, right? But it says here, Derrick White is testing the validity of the NBA being a make or miss league. White is having a career worst scoring efficiency season. That's where I got the 52% true shooting. Then it goes on and says, while having a career best actual EPM of 4.7, good for 11th in the league, Boston is 11.5 in the 1,600 plus minutes he's played on the floor. Basically, Derrick White he's impacting the floor so often, despite the fact that he's shooting one of the worst percentages he's had in his career. Jaylen Brown, who's the leading scorer for this team often, right? In games where they win and in games where they lose, his impact metrics aren't nearly as good as Derrick White's. And I think that's something that even Hoop Venue talks about. Like, I've seen people make jokes, but this is a graph that Hoop Venue has where it basically shows White and Brown's net rating, right? And with both of them being on, off, or, one of them being on, off. And it's quite interesting, the contrast here. I often get the heebie-jeebies when I hear people say, the analytics, is ruining the game, because I'm like, I guess I see what you're saying, because we're looking at the game way differently than they used to, and people basically allude what the NBA is going through right now, similar to what baseball went through, right? And there's this film that was made based on a true story called Moneyball, based on the 2011 MLB season, where the front office, I think the Oakland Athletics, right? The front office from that team assembled a really good team, a juggernaut of a team with a very low budget. And it was based on very advanced analytics that weren't traditional by any means. And that revolutionized the MLB, since a lot of people actually are very upset at how the MLB looks now because of how much analytics has influenced the sport. And I think the MLB did address things recently. They changed some rules to curb some of this. But still, this is something that I see in the NBA community a lot, where they're basically crying red scare at the potential of the NBA to end up in the same place where the MLB was at recently. That's the sense I get from a lot of people when they talk about, bro, these nerds are ruining the game, right? Because when I listen to what the nerds are saying, most of the time they're not trying to bash players. I think that's just people on Twitter trying to hate that basically do that, right? I think they're really trying to highlight what the players that aren't being highlighted are doing, that is, that should be paid more attention to. That's why it's so beautiful that we have alternative voices to the Stephen A's of the world, because we can start to understand a bit more how the coaches and the front office view the game, because they're the ones making the decisions on how teams play, right? And what players play and what players get paid to play. Anyway, those are my thoughts. And shout out, before I leave here, Michael McKelvey, bro. This guy made a video basically talking about how the post-up is coming back, right? 2-pointers are actually getting more and more valuable compared to the 3-point revolution that we've seen over the last decade. And it's a beautiful video. You guys should watch it if you haven't already. It came out less than 24 hours from the time I'm recording this. Great piece of work, bro. This is the type of stuff I aspire to do one day. So, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. And, please, I'm telling y'all, bro, y'all missing out on gold content if you're not watching this. All right, peace out.